Hello and welcome to InfinEye Games. It's been a while, but we are back at Paradise Hills. I took a little break from City Skylines because I was caught up with Minecraft and a few other games. And I've also been trying to spread out my long-term series so that they don't come out all at the same time. It doesn't feel like I'm saturating the channel with specific content, so that's why I've just been trying to make sure that it's not, coming out regularly. But now that we are back, we have things to do. So in the previous episode, we expanded our city and we did some traffic management. We added a couple of junctions which would help with the traffic. But as I was recording the cinematics of that episode, I realized something. I realized that despite having quite a decent number of people living in the city, for some reason it felt incomplete. It felt like it wasn't having the density that I wanted to have. I mean, it's not that there weren't people around, but then it felt like everything was slightly incomplete, slightly empty, especially in the angle that you saw in the opening sequence. So I decided that it might be time to not leave everything to the game itself to make our city look realistic, our city look more, closer to reality. I mean, I'm not trying to replicate. I feel like I keep repeating that every second episode, but I still want this to look more like a real city rather than, a utopian future where no houses have fences, they only have hedges and stuff like that. So I decided that I will tackle that issue this episode, and I will talk about certain things that we can do to make our city look more closer to reality, and without really playing around too much with assets from the workshop. So as you can see, I'm laying down some right now I'm basically converting the roads of the commercial as well as the office areas of this neighborhood, but before that I was putting in some fences around the houses which are right at the edges, because they're close to the main roads and it doesn't seem to be the best idea to not have any fences at all. So I added those so that they look like they're houses with boundary walls, and it gives a feeling of a neighborhood. And right now I'm basically adding cul-de-sacs to the end of the roads, because that's a common feature, especially in Europe. And considering this is a European city, that's what I decided to do. So I started with an attempt to make it look like a proper cul-de-sac using the roundabout builder tool, but then I just couldn't get the cul-de-sac to be small enough. So this is actually an asset pack. It's just a pack of 4 assets, which are basically a pack of road assets, which automatically you can just plop them down and they'll be a cul-de-sac. So that's one of the assets that I added, but then those are the same roads, and technically you're not really doing anything rather than manipulating what you already have inside the game. So following that, I'm just trying to detail the areas out on the edges so that they don't look empty. They don't look like they're facing the roads, because generally when you have main roads, you do have trees, you have boundary walls, you have something that sort of shields it so that you don't just walk off the road into the houses. So I added cul-de-sacs. Then I added actually a footpath so that those ends of the roads are actually connected, because I didn't have any actual drivable roads at the end, which meant that in order for you to go from one of those streets to the next street, you had to go all the way to one of the junctions and then back to the other side, which is also not very realistic. So I added walkways over there. Right now what I'm doing is a classic way of making a city look more organic and more realistic, is to have not everything be perfect. So I'm just adding a lot which wasn't yet taken up by a house. So I'm just adding some rubble. All of that is all vanilla, and I'm going to add a abandoned house in here. That basically makes it look like, okay, someone used to stay here, maybe the house burned down or something like that, and now that house is abandoned, that lot is abandoned. So that not only gives your city a little bit of character, a little bit of reality, but it also it doesn't feel utopian. You know that, okay, some things have gone wrong and maybe it's in the process of rebuilding, so that's why I put down some of the things. But it basically was in an attempt to make sure that not everything is perfect. So once I was done with that, and obviously I'm taking examples, so I'm not going in to do all of it, because there are like thousands of houses in this grid here, so I can't really go in and add things to every single one of them. I mean, I could, but then that'll take me upwards of I guess a day to do that, because just doing one street and one end of the houses to make it so that I can show that in the cinematics and talk about that, it took me close to 2 hours. So I obviously in future when I'm trying to end the series, I might go in and do those things so that it looks complete. But at the moment I decided to just do an example street to show you guys how that's possible. So moving away from the residential areas, the other areas that I felt like needed a lot of detailing was the stadium. So again, the in-game asset is just the stadium. That's it. It doesn't have any boundary walls. It doesn't have any security gates. It just does not seem realistic. Like, even in the most crime-free countries and crime-free cities, you won't see this happen at all, because you need boundary walls. You need all of those things, not only for safety and security, but there are other reasons as well for that. So unfortunately, the game does not have a boundary wall asset. It only has fences. So I decided to stick with the fences and basically go around the stadium and put a fence around it so that it looks like it is a closed off area. So right now I'm just putting these fences around the parking lots and just sort of demarcating what is part of the stadium essentially. So right now we're at the edge of the market. Now the market is less likely to have a fence around it, because it seems like it's a flea market and it could be a moving market, with semi-permanent stalls, not completely permanent. But obviously there are some things that we can do here as well, which we can come back later on when we are trying to do more. But I was also aware of the fact that if I do add too many props in an area, it'll tank my performance, because already I'm finding it difficult to get 30 FPS across the board at all places. You'll see that in the cinematics that it does. You'll realize that it starts to stutter in the cinematics itself. So I'm also heavily aware of that. I'm trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. But yeah, adding smaller details like bollards to stop cars from being able to enter at all places into the stadium, and at the edge of the parking area, so that you don't park outside of the limits, and adding some deformity, some defects to the roads, because the roads are not going to be pristine over time when you start using the roads regularly, especially a road like this, which would potentially attract the most number of traffic, it's good to add some defects on the asphalt so that it looks like it's been used. And adding details to the cul-de-sacs, adding trees, anything that is outside of what the game provides, it does add in some or the other sense, and it really helps to make the city look more realistic and more complete. Because when I was doing the cinematic, I realized that it looked almost bad, and it almost looked like the road, there was the main road, and then after a while, the city just started, the residential areas. Right now I'm just adding in some trees, which sort of hugs the railway lines, and that's also a great way of making sure noise pollution is under control, because once we put in the actual railway station, trains will travel along the railway road, and that will cause noise pollution, and people won't be happy about that. So adding smaller details and adding defects, like right now I'm just adding the ore resource over at the recycling plants, because that's one place that the ground will get polluted no matter what. So small touches like that really gives the city more character, and that was the whole idea of this episode, to make sure that no part of the city looks like it's just been haphazardly put together. Like this street, for example, you have roads that obviously go and meet the houses, but then none of the houses actually have any sort of a boundary wall. Some of them have hedges, but not all of them have. Like the house we just passed, that for example didn't have anything. It just was the road, and the asphalt sort of bleeds into the house. It looks very weird. So adding some boundary walls, adding some fences, just separating the road from the house, separating the ground from the foundation of the buildings, really helps. In every little bit helps to make the houses and the city look like it's a real place, rather than a utopia where you don't have to worry about putting any sort of a boundary around your house. But yeah, I mean, this was a quick and dirty episode, just talking about some of the easiest things that can be done without really bothering with heavy assets from the workshop. And yeah, I mean, every bit helps. Like I could have gone in and actually replaced some of these houses with smaller shops, because obviously residential areas do have shops, but then not all of them are residential. You do have some corner shops and everything. But yeah, I guess I'll leave it here. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and let me know if you would like to see more detail based episodes where we go in and add smaller details to make an area look more vibrant. But yeah, I guess I'll leave it here. Hope you've been enjoying the series. Let me know down in the comments below if there's anything specific that you'd like to see. And yeah, as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for the support that you've been giving me for the series. Yeah, I'll leave it here. Thanks for watching. Bye. I'll see you in the next one.